If you don't have, the right systems and processes in place, as well as the right team built, you're gonna struggle.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Kiefer, and I am here with Eric Fortenberry, who is the founder of JobTread. And JobTread is a construction software. I'll let Eric dive into the details on that, as we're going to be talking about today. But before we do that, Eric, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to do this. And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I appreciate you having me on, Chris.
Here's your elevator pitch. What is JobTread?
Yeah, so when I back in 2018, I was running a construction business, and we were struggling just to really organize the business, manage all the paperwork, all of the subs, the trade partners we had, our estimating, budgeting, syncing up with the accounting office. I mean, it was just a huge hassle, and we were very unorganized. It was a buddy of mine's company who I ended up taking over as CEO for a year and built out what is now JobTread, but basically JobTread is a construction estimating and project management software for any type construction business, really, from residential home builders to remodelers to pool builders, deck builders, up to commercial GCs and developers. Like any construction jobs-based business is able to, use our software to get organized, manage all their jobs, their budgeting, proposals, the whole operations from scheduling, kind of managing all the crews into the accounting side, with the invoicing and cash flow and things like that.
That's awesome. And so for the listeners, just to give context, and it's also helpful for you as well, Eric and I, our paths cross because I'm an automation consultant. So I work with home service businesses, usually painting companies. But in this particular case, former estimator from a client of mine went to a construction company and reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need to automate our processes." So as part of that, I always do research, and I'm looking for, I always approach any automation project with the perspective of there's got to be something that exists out there that solves 60, 70, 80% of the problem. So I won't mention any software names, but I have done research deeply in the construction world. There's some big players that have been around for a long time that are pretty expensive. There's other ones and a bunch of new softwares that I feel like are popping up. You're probably aware of many, Eric. But the thing that stood out to me, because I haven't interviewed any other founders, the reason I reached out to you to chat is because it appears from the outside that JobTread is the most integrated or integratable software in the construction space that I've come across. And in particular, I was very impressed with the work that you guys have done on your Zapier integration to make it easy for data to come in and out of your business. So that is kind of like a starting point for the conversation. I'd be curious whose, strategic decision influenced that. Why is that a priority for you guys? And yeah, just talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's a very keen observation you've uncovered there. So my co-founder and the head of our product development, my CTO, Casey, he is he's kind of the mastermind behind the application. When I was running the construction company, I built out the first version of what is now JobTread. But after that year, ended up basically recruiting some of my developers from my last software company, partnered with Casey. He essentially rebuilt everything, set it up to be, multi-tenanted, able to, build it out for many companies and scale it. And, his big thing was, this is an API first application. So at the beginning of my first software company back in, 2007, like it was all about mobile first, making sure that, you design your software to work on any size device. But this day and age, it's really now about creating a connected ecosystem, of all the different applications, because so much software has come about, and there really isn't one one software that can do everything for construction business. And so being able to play well with others is really important. And so, Casey had the kind of the forethought to really think about, the API, and that is like the core application of JobTread. And then our user interface is like built on top of our own API. And so that really has enabled us to, basically just have this open API that anyone can build on and develop for, but then we also, like with Zapier, the great thing about that is that, that's like a piece of middleware software that, enables, any of the apps. I think there's like over 5,000 applications that are integrated with Zapier. It allows people to kind of create their own automations, without having to write any code, and just kind of their nice little, user interface, drag and drop type setup that we very early on decided to have a very in-depth integration with Zapier, and that has just opened up tons of possibilities, being able to make it as easy as possible for people to get data in and out of JobTread in real time, kind of leveraging those triggers and actions that Zapier provides.
I you have no idea how excited I was when I came across, like, I'm not kidding. I probably looked at a dozen, and every single one is the all-in-one. We do it all. We do estimating, we do like accounting, project management, all of it, team communication, photo documentation, like it's all in this app. And I don't know if you've heard of a book. It's called Only the Paranoid Survive by Andy Groves, who's the founder of, either the founder or CEO. I don't know if he founded it, but he was at Intel back in the 90s as they were heading into the .com. And so one part of that I think is starkly identical, or very, like, what's the word? Another analogy for the period that we're going through right now with software apps, is he was talking about the verticalization or the horizontalization, if that's even a word, that existed at that time. So when computers were coming out, businesses were being created, and they're like, all right, we're going to go, like, make the processors, make all the components, the boards and all that stuff, build them, make the screens, do everything, and be a completely verticalized, from like almost literally to like, we're going to source silicone for the or silica for the silicone processors. Like, people were trying to do that, and there was the shift that happened right around 2000, where companies were like, this is so specialized, every single piece of this, that we need to pick which aspect of a computer we're going to do. And so Intel, obviously everybody knows, they went with microprocessors, and they went from a vertical to a horizontal company that then was like, we're going to make the best processors, and anyone else can use them that wants. You can put it in your computer or your device, but we're going to be a horizontal company that stretches across and solves this problem for lots of industries. And I feel like that's what's happening right now with software, is that, well, some companies are like, you are seeing this, and you're saying, all right, there's a need in construction. We need a better solution. And the problem that I see is that there's all these companies that are trying to do it all. They're saying like, hey, we're going to be an all-in-one thing. And I could not agree more with your CTO that in today's world, you have to pick which problems are we going to solve those problems really, really well, and then integrate to the extreme, so that if someone's like, I don't really like that, I can just tack on this other software that does that really, really well. And the fact that there are thousands of softwares that cost $20 a user, $50 a user, $100 a user per month. And it's like, the tech that you have access to for pennies would take millions and millions of capital to build on your own. And so anyways, that's kind of my rambling of, that's why we're here. That's what we're talking about. So tell your CTO that I am very big fan of how you guys have built this. And yeah, I don't know if you have any other comments on that.
No, I mean, I think you're spot on. And, I think the neat thing about it is that, it's also been a way, for just us to partner with tons of other applications out there where, we can both, promote each other. And it's just helped us to continue growing, just by having that kind of, connected ecosystem. And, we also have a marketplace, right there in JobTread to kind of help you find other complementary, businesses, services, integrations that, a construction business, could benefit from.
That's awesome. And then my follow-up is, do you, or have you made a list of which components you guys are not going to try to solve when it comes to construction?
Uh, it's kind of tough to say for certain. I know some things that early on, we decided, that we weren't necessarily going to, try to do like a takeoff, an on-screen takeoff. We're kind of circling back around to that though, and may actually look at integrating, kind of building our own simple version there. I've heard a lot about, with specifically with like commercial GCs, like, the AIA, like the G7 702, 703, like kind of the pay app. I know there's a lot of requests for that we just haven't gotten to. So I don't know if I necessarily kind of trying to think like off the top of my head, like what might we very much not plan to do. I see things as kind of more just it's all a function of time, and the challenge is that we have to take and we listen very heavily to our customers. And so like directly in JobTread and our help desk, there's a feature request board. And so at the end of the day, like if the majority of our customers are asking us to to do something, or voting on a particular feature, even if it's something that we thought maybe we weren't going to do, but everyone's saying, hey, this would be a great value add. We very much like take that feedback and heavily consider that for our development. And I mean it feeds directly into our development roadmap. So I don't necessarily know. I mean, I don't think we're like ever trying to like be an accounting system. We're not trying to replace QuickBooks, Zero, things like that. That's where it just makes total sense for us to integrate with them. But it's again, I see things as all a function of time and kind of what does the market really deem as something that needs to be within the project management software.
So flipping it around to, of all the things that JobTread does, because it does offer still is a, I would, again, in my own words, it has the option to be an all-in-one pretty much, if someone wanted it. But what would you say the components, like of all the features that you guys, I'm looking at your site, sales and estimating, project management, finances, customer experience, what are the specific pieces that are like, this is like a masterpiece of usability and the UI of how this part works?
Yeah, it's definitely our budgeting tool. I very first place I focused on when I took over that construction company was the budgeting, like making sure for every single job we know what is it going to take to deliver on this on this project. So flushing out your costs for your materials, for your labor, equipment. What I found when I took over is that a lot of times the estimators were kind of just sort of making things up, really. I mean, they could had a decent understanding of what it might take to accomplish a project, but they didn't really kind of detail out a scope of work, build out a budget. And ultimately what I uncovered is that some people were using markup to calculate the sales price and other people were using margin. Well, we were targeting a 30% profit margin, and someone who's marking up their cost by 30% is only going to get you a 23% profit margin. So we were pretty much shooting ourselves in the foot right out of the gate. And that's when I realized, like, man, we gotta have a good handle on the finances for a job. And it starts with building a solid budget. And then the way that like everything after that, whether you're sending out proposals, whether you're creating work orders and purchase orders, or you're doing invoicing or billing, like it just reuses all of the same information that you created in the budget, so that you're not having to re-enter the same info over and over and over again. In our budget tool, like you can completely customize all of the columns. You can sort it and group it. If you want to look at everything by cost code, or if you want to look at it by cost type, or if you want to look at it by room, like there's so many different options that I'd say at the core of JobTread, it's really built on that budget tool. And that's what I've never really seen any other software out there be able to come anywhere close to doing what we can do.
And so how, and again, this could be an ignorance question because I'm not deep in the construction space as far as running a job. I'm very deep in painting, which has some analogies, but definitely not near as many variables as construction. How would you, or how is the estimating component related to the budgeting tool? And is an estimator building the budget essentially and then just sending a summarized, like, without as much detail to the customer? Is that how that works, or am I thinking about that the wrong way?
No, you've actually, that's exactly right. I mean, we got hundreds of painters on here where again, you're flushing out, okay, what materials do we need for this job, and how many hours, or what's it going to take for us to be able to do this from a labor standpoint and material standpoint. And then again, whatever the company's target profit margin is, we're going to automatically calculate the price based on the cost that is going to go into this job. And so the budget is the starting point. That is where you're building out the estimate. And then you're just basically saying, okay, we're ready to send a proposal. You just select it all, add it to a proposal document. And then you got a lot of control. I mean, how much detail you share is totally up to you. I'm really not a big fan of giving a breakdown of your labor, material, every single line item. Like, I think you're just opening up a can of worms for them to say, well, I can go to Home Depot and I could buy this for cheaper. Why, it's kind of however much detail you want to share with the homeowner or with your customer. If you just wanted one lump sum, one price at the bottom, by all means you can do that, or you can give a more detailed breakdown. I mean, if you want to give unit, price and quantities and things like that, you can as well. But it's very flexible on how much information you want to share. But it all starts in that budget.
Mm. Yeah, I'd say I just completely. I think that the idea of, well, I guess I would be curious what integration. So back to this integration conversation, which apps, and just if you can pick one or two random ones, when was the first app that you guys did integrate with? And was there like a validation of like, oh, this is really great? Or we heard positive feedback from our customers that were like, oh, this integration works great. I love this feature and it's complementing your software. So when were you guys first able to get that feedback on the strategic decision to be an API first company and be like, oh, yeah, we're definitely going down the right path?
I mean, I'd say pretty early on, if not like almost right away, but like, basically the first major integration was with QuickBooks Online. It became just very, very apparent that, if we didn't integrate with the accounting system, which I mean, probably call it 85% of our customers use QuickBooks Online, that it was going to create duplicate data entry. And so, being able to, essentially run your jobs in JobTread, you've got to be able to do the invoicing. We've got to be able to manage the bills and the expenses to really truly understand how we're performing on a job. And so, in order for us to get people to use our system to do that, we had to be able to integrate with QuickBooks to push the data over so that they weren't having to do duplicate entry. Otherwise, if they had to go and enter it in QuickBooks anyways, then they might not enter it into JobTread, and so it doesn't give you that full picture. So I would say definitely with QuickBooks. I mean, and that really opened the door for us to be able to even start working with construction companies. We did end up also integrating with QuickBooks Desktop, which is hopefully kind of on its final stint of
You
life
and me
here.
both. Yeah. Hopefully not much longer. Hard to
Yeah,
integrate
but
with
I mean,
desktop apps.
yeah,
I'm curious. So like, what is your describe like, and again, yes, you could say construction companies or painting companies, but like, what's the ideal customer? Like revenue size, how many employees, what key office staff or managers do they have in place? Who are you building JobTread for?
sure. So from a company size standpoint, I mean, really any small and medium sized business, right? If you're huge, doing 20 25 plus million in revenue, you're probably looking at, a Procore. We're definitely and really early on started on very small businesses. But as we've grown and added to our feature set, it's enabled us to start working with much larger, companies. But I would still describe them, in the small and medium sized business, anywhere from a couple 100,000 in revenue to probably up to maybe 15, 20 million is probably towards the upper end of the our largest customers. But definitely the sweet spot is a couple employees, maybe 2 to 10, and then if you're having employees that are kind of clocking in and out, doing they're W2 employees, then those we probably see companies around 10 to 30 users might be the average. But we have some with hundreds of users. It really spans the gamut. I mean, we have very specifically designed JobTread to work for any construction, jobs-based business. So whether you're a painter or a pool builder, or an electrician or plumber or deck builder, like if you are managing jobs, and maybe even more specifically, like if every job you're having to custom bid, it's not like a recurring service type work. We're mowing lawns and it's going to be $50 every week. that's not really our bread and butter. I mean, that, Jobber would be very good for that. There's other kind of service based companies. I mean, we're more so on the, you got to custom bid every job. You have to build out a budget, you know, typically probably, a little bit longer of jobs, and then certainly as you get into the, the larger remodels, home builds, I mean, you've got to coordinate with so many different trade partners that it takes even more effort to be organized and to manage all of that. So that's where I see a lot of JobTread customers.
That's awesome. I was going to say from the CRM side of things, I'm a big fan of HubSpot. I happen to be a HubSpot certified partner, and we help customers implement HubSpot. I'm curious, you guys do have a CRM component as well. Do you? I don't know what your knowledge is in this space, but when would you say, or when are you seeing customers not use your CRM and use an external CRM instead?
Yeah, so that kind of maybe brings me back to one of my answers from earlier. I mean, things that we know that we're probably not going to do, at least anytime soon. I mean, like if you need email marketing where you're running campaigns, heavy HTML, kind of want to set up a lot of those texting or email automation campaigns. That's where something like HubSpot is a great solution. We have tons of customers who integrate HubSpot with JobTread, and so a lot of the data can be kept in sync. But the nice thing is that they can tack on that HubSpot to kind of do those drip campaigns and that email marketing, and then kind of at the right moment in time when they're ready to build out a job and build out their budget, just maybe dragging it from one deal, stage to another can trigger creating all of the information and pushing it into JobTread. And then, as you send your proposal, that can automatically go back and update the deal. And so there's really nice ways to kind of close the loop on it, if you will. But being able to tap into something for your email marketing is definitely a good idea from
That's
our
awesome.
standpoint.
And then as far as the vision of where JobTread is going, what is the how when was JobTread started?
Yeah, so it was 2018 was when I was running the construction company, and then early 2019 is when I left that to officially start up JobTread. So we built for a few years, and then we started selling our product in 2021. We took it to about 200 companies that year. Last year we got it to around 1,000. This year our goal was 2,000, and we're sitting at over 2,200 now. So yeah.
That's awesome. So what is the and you so you were in I'm just thinking for building a software, you partnered with a CTO who's doing the actual dev work. You did not have experience in software, or you did?
No, I did. So I built and sold my first software company back in 2015. And my co-founder CTO, he worked for me as a software developer there. We sold software to colleges and universities, took it to around 650 universities in 13 countries, had over 20 million users on our web application when we got acquired in 2015. I had actually my undergrad was in finance and accounting. And then towards the end of my first software company, I ended up going back and getting I did the undergrad computer science work, and then I got a master's in software engineering as well. So I've and then I built the first version of what became JobTread while I was running that construction company. But at this point, I don't really build on the product. I do development from from a kind of an operations standpoint and setting up all of our systems, but yeah, Casey and the development team, they own the product.
That's awesome. What has been like just in this journey since you started JobTread? What has been the thing that has surprised you the most?
Well, I would say probably it's really the how quickly this thing has really blown up on us. I mean, we're seeing exponential growth. Like at this point, like the entire business is inbound. Inbound leads coming to us, people who are likely using another system. Who we don't have to name names, but kind of not very happy with them and sort of how they're going about building out their company. And so but they're one of the largest players out there, and so we're getting. I mean, we had over 220 new customers signed up last month alone. We've just total inbound. Like we don't do any outbound cold calling or prospecting. We do go out and do a lot of trade shows where we try to meet people and just kind of be out in the community. But other than that, it's just entirely inbound. And so I've been very surprised at that, and how quickly we've been able to grow it. And I mean, like, we to this point, like, we hadn't run any advertising or anything. It's just people finding us and coming to us, and it's all of our customers. If you go look at all of our reviews, I mean, it's just 5-star reviews everywhere, both for the product and for the service, that we provide with them. But, I think my biggest takeaway from my first software company was it was a tiny market. There were only 5,000 universities in the US, another 5 to 10,000 worldwide. And so I wanted to come to the other end of that spectrum, where we got, maybe almost 1 million construction companies, in America alone, depending on how you kind of define that. But, like, I mean, it's just an enormous market. And so, I think that's been the thing that's just been very, exciting is to see kind of all that inbound, without having to do too much, advertising, outbound type stuff. I mean, we did just hire a digital marketing specialist who's going to help us start running ads for next year, because our goals go from 2,000 to 4,000 next year. So it'll, big jump, but we think that we got a lot of momentum.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that the focusing on building a good product and making sure that it works and does what you say it's going to do is the first step, And now you guys are in the just let's pour gasoline on the fire and get this thing
Yep.
bigger.
That's right.
What else is like? Yeah, we got another 10 minutes or so here. What else is like top of mind or critical, like that you feel like people need to understand either about JobTread or the construction industry, unique differentiators, key problems that people are experiencing that you guys solve?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, in this day and age, like, if you're not leveraging technology, if you don't have the right systems and processes in place, as well as the right team built, you're gonna struggle. And especially as technology continues to evolve, as automations come into play, like, you have to be able to be efficient in order to build a successful and scalable business. And so I think that's where JobTread has been a huge impact. I mean, I've seen, again, thousands of customers on here who are growing their business at rapid rates, where before they might have been stagnant and struggling. It just being able to leverage technology to help you get organized, and then to make sure that you're selling profitable jobs. And then once you sell that job, being able to execute on it is the other half of that battle. And so, in order to do that, just having a tool that can help you is going to pay dividends. And again, like, software is not expensive relative to how much it would cost you to hire another full-time employee. If you find yourself feeling like you're, what I describe, throwing bodies at problems, like where you're having to keep hiring and keep bringing people on, that's where you need to stop and look and say, how can we automate? How can we be more efficient and effective, instead of just kind of continuing to do what we're doing? Like, by having a great, estimating software, you can win more jobs, and you're going to be way faster at it. Giving customers the ability to make selections and, just interact with you throughout the process, with a client portal, like, making your business and being easy to work with is very important these days to win more jobs. And so, the reality is this industry is still lagging in technology. The majority of construction businesses out there, they're still, using pen and paper and spreadsheets, and, like, that's just not scalable. And so I think, as kind of what I see, in the direction that, where we want to go at JobTread, I mean, our goal is to become the new standard for construction management, and we're going to do that by getting JobTread to tens of thousands and eventually hundreds of thousands of construction companies. And we're keeping our price super affordable. I mean, it's $199 a month, plus $20 per user. And it even tiers down as you add more users. Like, everyone's like, well, your competitors are $1,000+ a month. Why are you so much cheaper? What are we missing? You're not missing anything. We've got everything they've got, but our strategy is to keep this affordable. I don't believe that, software needs to be a super expensive thing. Our profit margins are through the roof, even at $199 a month. And so at the end of the day, like, I believe if we do what's right, and we make sure that our price is always affordable, And again, I want a small, 1 to 2 person business shouldn't pay the same thing as a 10 or 20 or 50 person business. That's why it has to be some lever that you pull, that, a larger company is paying more than a smaller company. But at the end of the day, like, this should be just a very small, expense relative to your overall budget. And if we can save you from losing money just on one job, we could have just paid for the software for the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I think that also goes back to the reason that other softwares cost so much is because well, first of all, it could be that they're targeting a larger company, and there's some other nuanced features that it's like you're solving the problem of the $0 to $20 million construction company, like you said. Could someone bigger than that use you? Of course, but you know your niche, and you're going after that market. And the other tools that are thousands of dollars a month are probably built for different organizations. That's giving them the benefit of the doubt. The other thing that I think could be the problem is a term that you probably are familiar with in the software world of just technical debt. These companies have been built and they've existed for 10, 15, 20 years. And I like, again, from the software side of things, because I'm a software guy as well, when you like things are done differently. Like you built a software you started building it in 2019, right? It's like the technology that was available in 2019 was very different than the technology that was available in 2005. And so, like, obviously, there's going to be different, like, efficient ways to build software, just like we have more efficient ways to do everything else in our life. And so, I feel like to me, I always look at how, obviously, you want to work with a company that has some track record, right? For confidence that they're going to be around. But a software company that's been around for 25 years, I don't think and they don't, I mean, if they're smart, they're not marketing that because I'm thinking, wait, when was the last time you had a major overhaul of all of your code? Because things are different now. I just feel like that honestly is probably a big factor, is that they have all this technical debt of literal like stuff and people using these systems. And in order to overhaul and do what they see as the most logical thing, they would be disrupting and upsetting 10,000 customers that are currently using this dated system. And so they're literally in like just a bind of, do we swallow the cost and just invest heavily and revamp everything, or do we just milk it for what we can because we have a system that's quote unquote working?
Yeah, you've nailed it right on the head. I mean, it's I tell people all the time, we're not reinventing, the fundamentals of managing a construction business. Like, that hasn't changed. We're leveraging modern technology. We're creating an easier to use, easier to learn, much faster application. And it's exactly, it's some of these softwares have been around for so long that they've got all that technical debt, and yeah, they've got, thousands and tens of thousands of customers. You can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're kind of stuck with it. You got to build a very, very strong foundation, and everything after that, is just kind of getting put on top. But, if you got a weak foundation, you can have all sorts of challenges later. And, I think the other thing that you got to look at is, who are the owners of these other companies? A lot of times, software companies go raise a ton of money. They got a bunch of professional, institutional capital, venture capitalists, private equity firms, who at the end of the day, their goal is to maximize the return on their investment. And so that is what ultimately leads to, jacking up the price super high, trying to squeeze every last penny out of, every single customer that you've gotten. And in my last software company, I learned from experience, because I ended up selling it to a private equity firm. I watched what they did, and, it was, kind of, it really, I'm not a big fan. I won't be selling this one to a private equity firm. We're very fortunate that I really don't even need to. I'm not even thinking about building and selling. We want to create an awesome company, but we can afford, because we have self-funded this. Me, my family, my friends, even our own employees. Like, at the very beginning, we all put in the capital that we needed to get this thing off the ground. And we're very fortunate that we're way past, break even. We're over the hump. Like, this thing is cash flow positive. Definitely have no issues. We are, growing very healthy, and take every dollar that we make, then we reinvest it into the company, into hiring, more people to help us continue building it out and to help us servicing it. And I think a lot of times these other, a lot of times, bigger, more, older companies can kind of get to this point where you got massive overheads, you got a lot of inefficiencies, and that in turn increases the price of the software for their customers. And so, we're just extremely efficient. Half my team or so, we all work together at the last company. We describe ourselves as a well-oiled machine. We are very, very efficient in what we're doing, and that helps us to keep the price as affordable as possible. And we're undercutting the market. I mean, that's what we're doing. And that's why one of the many reasons that people are switching over is because they're going to save a ton of money on their subscription. And our product is got all the same features. We're targeting all the same customer bases. It's just we got to modern technology, much more efficient. And we're not just in this for the money. We're not trying to squeeze out this ROI and looking to sell it every 5 years to a new owner. We want to build a very great company with awesome culture. We love the customers. We love the space, the product. We're just very, very passionate about what we're doing. And we look forward to disrupting the entire industry.
That's awesome. Last question, and then we move to wrap up is, how are you guys planning or discussing AI and how that's going to be affecting your software, the construction industry? Are you guys building in any AI related features? How's that discussion happening at JobTread?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly kind of taking a look at everything and how we might be able to incorporate that. We kind of what has come about so far, and I mean, we use it as well. I mean, I think especially from like a content generation standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, it's been tremendously helpful. I think there's going to be even more opportunities to be able to try to kind of use the machine learning to really understand very large data sets on how we might be able to start making recommendations, and saying, hey, we see you just built out this job budget. Looks like it might be, a little bit under relative to similar types jobs that you've already run, or, hey, you might need to think about increasing your price here, padding this cost because of other issues you've had in the past. I mean, I think the possibilities are really, endless here. But it's also about making sure that, we kind of do it at the right time. And, again, we very heavily collaborate with our customers. And so, at this point, we could put some stuff in there where it's like, we're going to generate some, the kind of the basic email templates and messaging and things like that. But like, when I asked our customers, hey, you want us to do that? They're like, yeah, but we could just do that over here and copy paste it in. We'd rather you go focus on these top features, that you're not going to be able to do with AI, and so I think there's kind of this balance of, once it gets to the right point, we'll certainly look at incorporating it even more. But I do think a lot of companies right now sort of tout AI as a marketing thing. At the end of the day, it's an algorithm, and everything that all code is algorithms. It's a set of processes and looking at things and making decisions, and then how you take that and use it. And so to some extent, you could say there's tons of AI built into here, and to some extent you could say, well, we haven't incorporated the full gamut yet. But I do think over time it will continue to evolve. And we'll be adding it as forward-facing features to the customers. But even our developers use some of it when writing code and things like that.
I would be curious. This is maybe like a challenge to you or to your product team. Like so my philosophy is just like back to that verticalization versus a horizontalization of a company. Um, I have this thesis of companies that are trying to do it all are going to ultimately end up struggling. So I think you guys are hedged in the fact that you have an API that's very strong, so someone can swap out anything that they don't like, which I think is why you guys are doing that. But I think it's interesting, and this could be an absolutely terrible idea, but I'm like, it'd be interesting to know. You might not put this on your website, but to know like what are the features or components of a software or of a construction company that we are just choosing to be really bad at and not spend any time on. And it's like, hey, we're not, just so everybody's clear, we're not spending any time building out this thing. We have like whatever version exists in the software, but like go use some other tool to do that piece. And I'm sure, like you said, there's accounting for sure. But I just think it's an interesting thing of like the depth or the room for optimization of any particular feature. Like if it's budgeting, to me, I'm like, there's an opportunity to take budgeting to, 10 times improvement of what you have. If it's necessary is a good question. What's the cost benefit, all that. But I just feel like there's so many companies that are trying to do too much, and it ultimately ends up to people being dissatisfied. So that's just my more of like a curiosity challenge. I'd be curious in the next months or so to know, like, yeah, we're choosing to not do these things. And here's the reason why is because we think the core of a construction business is budgeting and whatever other 3 or 4 things. But anyways, that's my 2 cents from the peanut gallery.
Sure.
So moving to wrap up questions, what are the 3 books that you recommend?
I'd say probably one of my most recent reads and my new all time favorite. Probably about 10 or something copies of it and gave it out to everyone. Is Marcus Sheridan's book, "They Ask, You Answer." I think it's a phenomenal book that is basically like, look, go sit down with your sales team. Figure out what are all the questions that they're getting asked. That they're answering the same questions over and over, and just start publishing the answers. That publish them in blog posts, put out videos about it, address all of the elephants in the room, just be transparent. The things that you don't do well, put those out there. Just answer the questions. And I think that he has just really inspired us to just open everything up. Like I just earlier today did a big JobTread live product update. It's kind of like like a town hall with everyone. We used to only do those with our customers. But then I read this book and he's like, if you're not doing something because of your competition, or because for whatever reason you don't want to share it with others, like you're doing yourself a disservice. And he was 100% right. And so now we just open up everything. We let anybody and everybody join all of our webinars, all of our product releases. Like it's just we just put it all out there. We have put out tons and tons of content on YouTube because of this book. I highly recommend it. I think it's one of the best, greatest books, and especially in this day and age, being able to really kind of take your sales and marketing and leveraging videos to to a whole nother level. Marcus Sheridan's spot on with that.
I love that you suggest that, because I read that book in my previous job, and I think it is leveraging the internet in the way that it was designed and that it had its full potential. I completely agree.
Yeah. I think Good to Great is obviously staple, really great book. Probably and one more. So I read this book at the very beginning of my first software company. It was called "Once You're Lucky, Twice You're Good" by Sarah Lacey. I ended up actually traveling to San Francisco, or I was there for to go visit some university, and then ended up tracking her down and had coffee with her and got to meet her. And like it just the book really explains how all of the whole the whole Web 2.0, everything over there in Silicon Valley, like they all knew each other and invested in each other's businesses. And so they got lucky one time, and then they turn around and they basically just helped each other and really created so many more companies from a much smaller group of them. And so like I've just always found that to be a very motivational thing for me. I feel like I was very fortunate, very lucky to have built and sold my first my first company right out of the gate, and I'm now working on my second one that I've started from scratch. And again, it's just a really, really interesting book that I don't know, maybe a little bit dated now that it's maybe, I don't know, we call it Web 3.0, or I don't know what version we're on here of the web, but it was really interesting to see how all of kind of those early Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all those same people were very connected and created so many more companies after that.
That's awesome. Are you still in contact with her?
Little bit, but I have been thinking about at some point I will certainly reach out to her and thank her for being part of my motivation to start all over and do it again. Certainly really inspiring.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd love to get her on the podcast too. I was curious if you have an email or something. I always love, I'm going to read that book for sure, but seems like someone that would be right up my alley, my interest. And then movie recommendation.
That's a good question. I certainly love a good movie. If I had to think back, I mean, again, I probably think about one of the ones that really inspired me at the beginning of my last company. And actually the day that it came out, I mean, it was The Social Network, Mark Zuckerberg's story. The day that it came out, I took the entire company out. We all went to the movies. My mom and everyone was there, and like we walked out, and she's like, "Eric, that's your story." I had started my first company at the same time that Mark started Facebook, except he created this this open social network to everyone. Ours was more like a white labeled kind of private network that we sold to universities. But again, just like the whole founding story and how it got built. I don't know. It always just kind of gets me excited thinking back about earlier days. We bootstrapped my first company out of a 5-bedroom house, ended up getting another one right around the corner. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, kind of like lived it.
That's so cool. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what is your recommended way that they do that?
Man, I'd probably say find me on, Facebook, LinkedIn, or obviously just go to, www.jobtread.com. You can reach out that way. If you're interested in seeing our product, I definitely encourage you to schedule a demo through our website. We'd be happy to get on, kind of walk you through it, make sure it's a good fit. But, you could feel free to email me as well, Eric@JobTread.com. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on today. This was a fun conversation, and keep up the good work over at JobTread. And we'll be in touch.
All right. Appreciate you having me on, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention and listening to this episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. Your feedback and comments mean the world to me. If you liked what you heard, please take a second, leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. If you've got suggestions for future episodes or just want to say hi, shoot me an email at chris@chriskiefer.com. Don't forget, I make it a point to include all the links to the books, movies, and resources mentioned on this episode in the show notes. You can see those directly below in the description or on my website, chriskiefer.com. Thanks so much, guys.